Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to go over 5 of the worst possible things you could ever ask a trans person. These are things that I've been asked personally countless times. It really is not limited to any one specific group of people. So if you're watching this and you're curious about how to talk to a trans person, here are 5 things that you should never, under any circumstances, ask a trans person. All the answers to these questions are really experience-based just from me personally. So you might have a different answer to these questions, or you might not find these questions that offensive, but again, this is all just based on my personal opinion of these. Obviously, with my presence online being what it is, I'm bound to get some intrusive questions, some weird DMs, some very awkward comments. It happens, it's the internet, I can't control what people say to me, and most of the time what people say to me doesn't really bother me, but sometimes questions, especially questions like these that I'm about to get into, they just kind of rub me the wrong way, and so I just wanted to kind of do a quick crash course on, first of all, if you're not trans, and you're speaking to a trans person, what not to ask them, and second of all, if you are trans, how to kind of respond to these in a way that doesn't make you seem like an asshole, but still lets you draw firm boundaries with the person who's saying this bullshit to you. Okay, we're gonna start it off with an absolute banger of a question. Might piss some people off. I've seen some discourse about it online, specifically on TikTok and Twitter. A lot of people have disagreements about this. My answer for this one might piss some people off, but the question itself is when somebody asks you what your preferred name or your preferred pronouns or your preferred gender is, I don't like when people say, oh, what's your preferred pronouns? The reason that I dislike the word preferred or preference so much is because it's not a preference. It's our life, it's who we are. I personally feel like there are just better and more straightforward ways of asking somebody how they wish to be referred to. There are easier ways to ask somebody what their name is, literally just saying, what's your name? If a trans person is comfortable with you, they're most likely going to give you the name that they chose for themselves. And obviously, if you ask somebody, what are your pronouns? Again, they're not going to give you pronouns that they wouldn't want you to use. It just feels like when somebody asks me for my preferred name or my preferred pronouns, it honestly feels like I'm giving them the choice to either use what I tell them or not use it. Preferred leaves space for ambiguity, and it leaves space for people to be like, oh, well, he prefers to be called Dakota, but I'm gonna call him Aspen because that's what I knew him as before. It's not negotiable, so I'm not gonna go up to you and be like, oh, my preferred pronouns are he, him. I'm just gonna tell you my pronouns are he, him. That way, you know right away there is no room for you to make any mistakes about it. I'm telling you right now, he, him are your only options. I'm all for cis people kind of normalizing putting your pronouns out there, asking people what their pronouns are, to kind of make it a normal everyday thing. I can understand the viewpoint of wanting to kind of normalize asking for people's pronouns and names and gender and everything like that, but at the same time, I feel like it can be used to target trans people specifically and to out trans people specifically, so I just feel like the word preferred should be omitted from that question altogether. When did you decide to be transgender? Alright, first of all, nobody decides or chooses to be trans, okay? In the wise words of our Lord and Savior Lady Gaga, I was born this way. It wasn't a choice. I didn't one day wake up and go, I think I'm gonna transition. Yeah, it's not like that. Obviously, some people find out that they're trans later on in their life. Some people don't find the terminology of what being trans is or what being trans means until later on in life. For instance, I didn't even know that being transgender was a thing until I was about 16 or 17 years old. There are stories of people coming out at 50-something, 60-something. There's no right or wrong way to transition, but nobody ever chooses or decides to be trans, I would describe it more as a discovery of yourself, a discovery of who you are. This next one I get all the time, especially when it comes to older cis people, not so much people my age or younger people. A lot of times they will ask, have you had B surgery, or something along the lines of that? Are you fully transitioned? And I hate when people ask me this, and it kind of automatically raises red flags in my mind when somebody asks me this, because the moment that you ask me if I've had the surgery or if I've had this or that surgery or if I'm fully transitioned, it just sounds like you're kind of fetishizing me. It's really just a roundabout way of asking me what's in my pants. If you want to know if I have a dick or not, just ask, if you're gonna be bold, bold. But I really just don't like this question because there's no final form for transitioning. There's no like common end point for trans people in their transition. Everybody transitions differently. Some people may want top and bottom surgery. Some people may only want top surgery, or they may only want bottom surgery, and some people may not want any surgeries at all, and that's completely and totally up to them. It's their body, it's their choice. Transitioning is really expensive. A lot of trans people simply cannot afford that. They can't just chuck $6,000 out the window and be like, here, let's go get top surgery. So some trans people may not even want to go through that. You can go through as many or as little surgeries you need in order to feel comfortable in your body. And it's none of anybody's business whether you have undergone surgery or not. And that ties into the next question, which I haven't gotten asked this in a long time, but when I first came out, I did get asked this quite a lot, and it's, how do you have sex? Mind your own fucking business. Are we sleeping together? Are you gonna take me home tonight? No? Then why the fuck do you care what's in my pants? I have sex however I want to have sex. Everybody has sex differently. Sex isn't just a fucking key in lock type situation, you know? It doesn't work like that for a lot of people, even cis people. Like I said, it ties into the last question because it's just a very perverted question. Like, you wouldn't ask a stranger that. If you walked up to a random person on the street, you wouldn't stop them and be like, oh, hey, sorry, how do you have sex, by the way? I was just looking at you and I just wanted to know, how do you have sex? It just makes me feel like you only see trans people as some like perverted fantasy. Like, you only see us as sexual beings, and that's very dehumanizing. You just sound like a chaser. Like, you just sound like a fucking chaser when you ask trans people if they've had the surgery, or if you ask us how we have sex. It's just disgusting. And then the last question, which isn't really a question, it's more of like a statement. It's kind of ironic because one of my first ever TikToks that I made was about this like question slash statement. And I got quite a bit of flack for it in the comments when someone says, oh, but you look just like a man. Like, I never would have been able to tell that you were trans. Like, yeah, that's the whole point. I got quite a lot of like feedback saying that the point of being trans is not to pass as cis, which is a very valid point. But I mainly made that TikTok because of the irony when somebody asks me, oh, but I could never tell that you're trans. Like, that's the entire reason that I transitioned. I wanted to look, sound, and feel like a man on the outside, just like how I feel on the inside. Like, what did you expect? Trans people come in all bodies, all shapes, all sizes, all styles, however you want to say it, just like cis people do. Most of the time, I want to say that the people who say this are really coming from like, they're trying to compliment me, they're trying to say that I pass really well. But even if you're coming from a good place, it's such a weird thing to say. Again, it's just something that you would never say to literally anybody else. I don't know, I feel like the media specifically has kind of pushed this specific image of what trans people, and specifically trans women, are supposed to look and sound like. People have kind of internalized that over the years, and so whenever you say, oh, but you don't look trans, I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? What am I supposed to look like to you? In your mind, what does a trans person look like? Guarantee that it's going to be some ugly, stereotyped caricature of a trans person. No matter how well-spoken you are, most of the time when somebody asks you something like what we just went over, you're not going to change their opinion. They're very set on how they view trans people, and a lot of times they get offended if you defend yourself. Like, if you stand up for yourself and you say, well, hey, don't ask me that, it's none of your business, they get offended. They're like, oh, I didn't mean anything by it, I was just asking, you know, it's just a fucking question. And they act like you're the one in the wrong when they were the ones who were prying into your personal business. So yeah, those are like the top 5 questions slash like statements that I get that really grind my gears, really piss me off. I hope that if you're watching this and you're not trans, you learned something from this. If you're watching this and you're trans, I just hope that this video helped you realize that like you're not alone. And unfortunately, most trans people will get asked one of these questions, probably, definitely more than just one of these. Hopefully you kind of learned like how to respond maybe a bit more firmly to these questions from like my responses. If you have any other like weird, creepy questions or like statements that cis people have made to you, put those in the comments, because I'm actually very curious to know. I would love to hear your responses to these questions that I listed off, if they're any different from mine. The whole preferred pronouns, gender, name thing, if you have a different opinion or if you have something else that you want to add, seriously, let's have a discussion in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, if it helped you, if it helped a friend, please give this video a like, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not already. We are super close to 4,000 subscribers, which is incredible. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support you've been showing my channel and my videos recently. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video.